love all the storytelling. So in this next part of the program, we're going to hear about diverse ways of knowing about biodiversity from an amazing group of researchers who have each prepared short lightning talks. Before I introduce them, though, I forgot to bring my water bottle on stage, and so if I could ask one of my colleagues to bring it to me, that would be great. So joining us first, we have Michael J. Balick, the Vice President for Botanical Science and the Director of the Center for Plants, People, and Culture at the New York Botanical Garden. Give it up for Michael, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Wonderful to be here with you today. See so many old friends. And I'd like to talk a little bit today about the biocultural diversity of food in the Pacific. But I'd like to start by talking about a working definition of biocultural diversity. We have on the left the biosphere, and everyone knows that that's the biological diversity on the planet. And then there's the ethnosphere, the sum total of human knowledge from day one, whenever that was. And when you combine them, you have the intersection is biocultural diversity. That's the area that we work in here at the Center for Plants, People, and Culture. So, I'd like to give you a couple of examples of biocultural diversity and nutrition and why this is important. Vitamin A deficiency is a priority issue for global health. And the Karachi banana, shown here, is a common food in Pohnpei, the Federated States of Micronesia, where it's consumed steamed, boiled, or raw by children or adults. Karachi is the Pohnpeian name for carrot. Each banana weighs about 200 to 400 grams and contains 1.7 to 3.5 milligrams of beta-carotene, a pro-vitamin A carotenoid. Karachi is also a common weaning food, as this image of young Tammy Petrick eating karachi was featured on a stamp issued by the Federated States of Micronesia in 2003 as part of a local foods campaign. Before the 1970s, vitamin A deficiency was unknown in Pohnpei. The local diet changed radically from traditional foods to a majority of the calories coming from ultra-processed foods. In the 2000s, the island food community began to promote local foods, including karachi, as a way to help combat nutritionally related illness and improve the health of all Pohnpeians. It's time to try and introduce this species to other areas of the tropics as well as promote it in Micronesia. Now I'd like to switch to a different topic, emergency foods. Sources of nutrition that are available when disaster strikes. Now here in the United States, these are our emergency foods. However, in the Pacific Islands, facing an increasing number and intensity of natural disasters, such as cyclones and droughts, and climate change is making things worse. For example, on the island of Anicham, population 1,500 in Vanuatu, people that live in a biodiversity-dependent culture, they eat what they grow. There's a different approach to emergency foods. For example, when a cyclone strikes and eliminates most of the above-ground cultivated foods, people know where to turn, underground. And here's an example of one of those plants, Cuculigo orchioides, and that's in the Hypoxidaceae for the taxonomists amongst you. And we've made over 2,000 collections. These are the roots. They're boiled and eaten. And you see the quote was, chew starchy material and spit out the rest. This root has no taste, but enables us to survive. The nutritional data of this is fairly unknown. We've made over 2,000 collections of useful plants in Vanuatu since 2013. In these, local people have identified many, many dozens of plants of what they call survival or emergency foods. And you see this in traditional cultures around the world. Specific ferns, barks, leaves, and roots from many different plant families, things you're not really thinking about eating, like bark. It actually tastes pretty good. It's, again, hard to find nutritional data on these sorts of emergency foods and minor species. It's also fascinating that people have learned to ferment and store food underground as a source of emergency food, such as this breadfruit pit in the Federated States of Micronesia, where a common food like breadfruit can be fermented and remain edible for a decade or more, regardless of the outside temperature. And that's possible because of the microorganisms that ferment these foods. And these foods, these breadfruit pits, are essential for people's survival. There are stories, anecdotal stories, that breadfruit put underground in this way and fermented could be 40 years old and still edible. If you've ever eaten it, it sort of tastes like cheese. Anyway, again, there's a great deal of work to do on local food preservation systems, whether it's breadfruit or bananas or many other things. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. You can join me over here. I really liked what you had to say about, these survival, these emergency foods in the Pacific Islands, and how people know where to turn, and they've created these systems of resilience, whether it's the breadfruit or the other survival foods. So I'm really encouraged by that, because as the climate crisis worsens, a lot of this will become even more important for all different types of communities. So thank you so much for emphasizing that.